We are back into the property show on the all new CNA938. This is the weekend edition of Asia First. I'm Keith D'Souza, talking this morning property with Paul Ho, Chief Mortgage Officer at iCompare Loan. We talked about rents, we talked about the US-China trade war, and of course interest rates, and now it's time to take the temperature of the Singapore residential market. Paul, welcome back. We've been told every time you open social media, you open any form of media, it's this 25,000 new apartments coming on stream in the next
Yep.
1 or 2 years. But we also, what the headlines don't say is that developers here still have to clear excess stock, which they haven't, the product which they haven't gotten rid of yet.
Yeah, that is a challenge right now as we speak. Having said that, I would say that the new launch market is still the bright spot in the property agent market, meaning that property agents are having or actually feel that property launches are an easier pie as compared to the resale market, as in resale of private and
So
HDB
basically,
properties.
people are going new rather than looking at the existing pool that's available.
Not necessarily. I do have a lot of customers that call in and say specifically that they are looking for only resale properties, right?
Right.
So there are people that like to go to the showroom every weekend. I'm one of them.
Really?
Yes, even though some of
And
the
you're heading there now, I guess. Being a
no,
Saturday
on the
morning, a Sunday
weekend,
morning,
on the weekend, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, Paul, so the new launches seem to be attracting the attention. What does this say for the resale market?
The resale market will have a slightly lesser impact for from the new launches market, because the resale market has always been slightly marked down. I will say the slightly is actually maybe 10, 20, 30% depending, right? When the market was up before the property cooling measure that came in July 2018,
Right.
the market was very exuberant, and a lot of developers actually going for en bloc and so on, that actually beat up, and there was basically a frenzy. Right, so 2 quarters, 3 quarters of rises actually rose about 10%
Right.
in that vicinity, in the ballpark. That caused a lot of sellers to ask ever higher asking prices, right? So the new launch have actually also followed suit to ask for even higher prices. So the new launch price and the resale price gap actually, to some extent, I mean, I don't have all the full stats, but in my opinion, or by observation, has actually widened, right? But right now we are seeing that the new launch prices are starting to soften, and if developers choose to price, they are pricing it more affordably, right? And if they do price it more aggressively in the earlier stages, they tend to sell more. If they do not price it aggressively, or they have priced it wrong and on the higher price end, they may sell out 30-40% on the first launch of. When they say it was sold out 30%, 50%, 80%, it's actually on that launch. So they may have 100 units. They say, oh, we sold out 100%, but their launch is like 10 units, right? So they sold out 10 units, right? So that is essentially what it means by 100% sold out for the first launch. Then the second launch, another 10 units, oh, we sold out again. So it creates that positive momentum.
It's all in the marketing, is it, Paul?
It's all in the marketing. It's like you have, I have only 10 oranges left. The last 10 oranges, buy what is left. So when someone buys that 10 oranges and walks away, then the fruit seller takes out another 10 oranges, and it's like that's the last 10 oranges. So they don't show the 100 oranges on the display shelf.
So let's talk about, since people seem to be gravitating towards the new, although you said it's mitigated, depends, I guess it's always dependent on location, facilities, amenities, and things of that nature. There are lots of, older properties, leasehold properties, who are getting there, and this is in the private sphere. I'm not even talking about the public sphere yet.
Yes.
What's in it for these owners? Do they have to, bite the bullet and hope there's an en bloc, given the fact that it seems to be almost non-existent these days?
I think people are need to temper their expectations, right? If that's your only house, that is a home,
right,
or a shelter. If you have multiple properties, then some of them become investment. So if you are staying well in your leasehold property, so be it. Why does en bloc even come into the picture?
Indeed.
If en bloc ever comes, then where are you going to move to, right? So if you are at the early phase of an en bloc, then you will be like, oh, I should have sold later. We could have gotten a better price, but so on and so forth, right?
You have been, an avid attender of management committees and
Yes.
and an advisor on en bloc situations.
I'm not paid though. I mean,
Yeah.
the next time I get invited, I'll probably charge some fees for it.
But on that, are they still trying?
They have pretty much given up. A lot of them have pretty much given up. I do know of developers that own commercial buildings are still trying. I think Peace Center is still trying, and they are still trying for the
Queensway down the road here just was successful.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the nature of that building and the location and what you can do with it at the location. So when the prices and the hype has come down, some of the developers may be looking at replenishing their land bank. If they haven't been active earlier on in the bidding process and they haven't actually bought anything, then they could come in at this stage and bid for something that is attractively priced. But going into the future with some of the supply coming on stream for the residential market, it is a big question mark. How much can they sell for? How long they need to sell it off, and during the up to the time they get their permit for sale. Meaning that they have a full 5 years to build and sell everything. Otherwise, they'll be subjected to the qualifying certificate charge of
So for someone looking for a property as a home, forget about the investments and things like that. Just run-of-the-mill, ordinary Joe Singaporean looking for a home, or perhaps upgrading. What would your advice to him be, Paul?
Upgrading, I think the key thing is look at what is your personal needs and your family's needs. Meaning that don't just look for the cheapest. If you are going to be working in Jurong, for instance, then consider somewhere Jurong, Clementi, and so on. If your children are in certain vicinity, then consider those because those are logistics issue. Going to and from the time that you need to wake up to send your children and so on, those things will take a toll on you. If you really calculate the time cost and your labor cost of doing so, it adds to hundreds of thousands of dollars in over a 10-year period. So you may think that I have saved some money, living in a far-flung corner. I don't want to say the area, but
yes, of course.
Yeah. So this house is 2,000 square feet. I bought it for $2 million versus 1,000 square feet for $2 million. It's $1 million difference, right? But you're going to spend extra 3 hours a day. Your wife spends extra 1 hour to work. You spend extra 1 hour to work. You send your children to school extra 30-40 minutes per trip, and then your children take another extra 30 minutes per trip. You have 2 children, so you're as a family, you're spending 4 extra hours a day, right? Of course, 4 people, 4 extra hours. Then you multiply that by your labor cost. Of course, your children are free of charge. They don't earn any money, but you get paid like $50 an hour or $30 an hour. So that's like $60 or $80 extra a day. So you multiply that by 30 days, $80 times 30 days, like $2,500. times a year, there's like 30,000 extra in a year. So in 10 years, you would have spent $300,000 worth of labor time. Not considering petrol, not considering ERP if there are ERP, not considering taxi fees if any taxi fees. So at least $400,000, right? And at the end of the day, a far-flung area may not appreciate as much as an area that is in demand or where there's near to amenities. Right.
Paul Ho, you've scared me for a moment, but the next time I'm in the market, you're the first person I'm going to look for. Paul Ho is the Chief Mortgage Officer at iCompare Loan, and we were talking, taking the temperature this morning of the situation of the Singapore property market in light of the US-China trade war, in interest rate cuts, and if it would have an effect. You be the judge. You've been listening to The Property Show on Asia First, the weekend edition. I'm Keith D'Souza. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.